You could say that. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in real quick here and say David DeWitt, who is a geneticist, neurological scientist as well, has a great article on, actually not a great article, a great lecture on, quote, junk DNA. And there are many things that we assume about it that are not actually true or merited.
Sure, that's a fair debate.
And you see, some of what we consider junk DNA serves as decoys to decoy away, pathogens. So actually, the organism survives because it's like, during World War II, the Americans and the British had all kinds of inflatable tanks that they would blow up and set all over the battlefield, and it's a decoy, draw away a good missile.
Sure. Okay. So let me get to my point.
Okay.
I'm going to get to this. So if you read Talk Origins, for instance, they talk a lot about this, and they say that the chimpanzee genome has not been fully sequenced.
Correct.
But from what we know so far, we do know of at least 7 endogenous retroviruses that are in common between the human and chimpanzee genome.
Correct.
And they are located in exactly the same places in the genetic code. Now, since the insertion points are known to be random, and they're known to be hereditarily passed, this supports the evolutionary theory of a common ancestor between chimpanzees and humans.
I understand.
Okay. Do you agree that that is evident?
No.
Why?
I understand what you're saying. Could it support the idea that because humans and chimpanzees have similar duties to do in life, they both have to face forward, they both have to think about what they're doing, they both have to see things and hear things and respond to their environment, that it may be our lack of understanding of the purpose behind this junk DNA, so-called. Maybe it is indeed part of a bigger design that we haven't comprehended yet to draw away, similar viruses, etc., to act as a decoy, and it needs to be in that particular place. Maybe it's not as random as you think.
Okay, then let me ask you a question, though. If this DNA, which most of us seem to be calling junk DNA, if it is actually verified to be junk DNA, and it is verified that the junk DNA in common between humans and other hominids and primates, etc., actually match the phylogenetic tree that we already have from morphology, would you consider that to be evidence for evolution?
Yeah, if that is all true, and I think that's a big if, but then I would consider that as the first bit of evidence I'm aware of that would support the evolutionary ancestry. But still, I would say it could still be evidence for creation in that it could be a decoy that's properly placed, Now,
this is funny, Ken, because I think we're actually pretty much in agreement on this. Whenever I look through all the evidence for micro and macroevolution, ERVs were definitely the most compelling piece of evidence. Like when I came across this, I thought to myself, if this is correct, then the rest of these arguments can basically go to hell, because this is what it's about. If we verify that this junk DNA is junk, and that it's passed on this way, and it matches the phylogenetic trees, that's about as close to proof of biological evolution as you're ever going to get. Well, the only thing better than that would be to go back with a video camera and film it happening.
I think you really jump into a big conclusion there. These similarities, first of all, this junk DNA, if it is junk DNA, is still baggage. It's still negative. This is a downward step, not an upward step. So why would you leave?
That's not. Actually, what they would say is that this is just a byproduct of mutation over time. That some genes get mutated and they don't work, and then eventually they will work because they get mutated to a state where they take over and they actually have a functional purpose.
Oh, that's a stretch. That's a stretch to say eventually they will work. All you're doing is carrying around a bunch of baggage.
But that's what they think natural selection acts upon, though, is the genes, and the genes have to come from somewhere, and they come from mutations.
Yeah, but you're leaving science going to religion right at that point.
It's going to hypothesis, Ken. It's not going from science to religion.
It's a faith statement. You believe it may happen.
It's hypothesis.
Okay,
it's verifiable. This is actually something that's falsifiable and verifiable. It's not like just an ethereal what if. We can actually look at the DNA and see it's happened.
Right. Let me try to summarize it. If, as you go through life, you pick up enough junk baggage and haul it around long enough, you may evolve into something better.
If that baggage continues to get acted upon by random mutation and natural selection, that is the theory of
Okay, do you have any examples where it has happened?
I think that there are articles about how this works. I'm not a biologist. I'm just pointing out that this is this kind of thing that you would expect to find if evolution is true. It does fit the prediction of the model.
Okay, have you read Ashby Camp, who is very brilliant within the biology realm. Have you read his critique of endogenous retroviruses? And actually the entire article, 29 Evidences for Macroevolution, that was on True Origin?
I probably have.
You can go to True Origins instead of Talk Origins if you want to get the truth.
I've been to both, actually.
True Origin has a very large rebuttal to, who is that actually wrote that? Edward Max, that wrote 29 Evidences for Evolution? I believe it was Edward Max, but Ashby Camp did a critique on pretty much point by point of the entire thing, so at least being fair to both sides, check that out for everybody out there. True Origin.
TrueOrigins.org?
True Origin, singular. There's only one.
And I think it was like Kent pointed out, just because somebody writes a rebuttal to it doesn't mean that it's actually correct.
No, I understand that. However, if you're going to make reference
Jared, that's a sword that cuts both ways.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Anyway.
So I have one final question for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
What would it take for this line of inquiry to actually serve as evidence for evolutionary theory?
Well,
what would you have to see fulfilled?
I would have to see what you said become true, first of all. Secondly, all other possible alternatives eliminated. Like a court of law, did the butler kill the guy with the candlestick in the bakery? Well, let's look at all the alternatives. Sometimes things look very promising, like, wow, it sure looks like he did it, and then you come up with evidence, and nope, didn't work, didn't happen.
But in science, that's not how evidence actually works. You don't just totally obliterate all of the theories, and you don't have to demonstrate that the other theories are totally wrong. You take the best theory that fits the data. I mean, there's different theories of the solar system, but only one of them that we know of actually makes ultimate sense with all the data.
Sure. Well, and there are various theories about the origin of life, and all we've ever seen and observed is that, dogs produce dogs, and life comes from living things, and so any other theories outside of that would not be really scientific theories. They'd be religious statements.
It seems like looking at genomes under a microscope and using sequencing equipment is actually an observation.
Okay. If you studied the code, if you could unlock the code in your computer for Microsoft PowerPoint and studied the lines of code required for Microsoft Word, you would find thousands, probably millions of similarities. When I type in F7 to do spell check, it works in Word and in PowerPoint. Now, see, that proves that both of those evolved from Morse code slowly over millions of years.
I think it's funny that there's two responses to this that I would give. One is that evolution sort of does make sense as a model for the way software develops. The problem that I have with it is using it as a comparison to biological evolution is that these programs don't self-replicate, and they aren't susceptible to their own mutations in the same sense.
If you get something that's self-replicating, you have just increased the complexity by orders of magnitude. You've made the problem much worse for yourself.
That may or may not be the case.
Okay.
But I mean, using a computer is a bad analogy, as people have pointed out, because they don't follow the same general behavior as organisms. Organisms that we study in biology have genetic code which is malleable and blendable with other DNA from organisms.
Wait. You just told me that the genetic code has baggage, which is not valuable, but might be someday.
Malleable.
Oh, malleable. Okay.
Yeah. And valuable. I mean, the fact that we have so much room to mutate, I think, is what the biologists would say is why this is able to work. If you have a limited amount of data from which to put information into, you're only going to get so much out.
Okay.
You would almost expect there to be more baggage than not. I mean, it's kind of like how when you have a computer and you have a hard drive, you have more hard drive space than you actually ever use. Or if you have a house, you have more space than what you would ever actually fill up because you have to have room to move things around.
Correct.
It's the same. I think that analogy is somewhat strong.
Okay, why would the human brain, for instance, evolve more than it uses?
That's a very good question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
That's the kind of question that definitely fits within the realm of evolutionary biology, but that has nothing to do with whether or not you accept the theory to begin with.
No. See, that is an evidence that we were designed for something greater, and we are now degenerate forms of the original copy atom.
You can take it that way, but I don't think that's a natural response from the data. I don't.
It may not be a naturalistic response, but it's a logical response. We are a degenerate form of the original copy, i.e. Adam and Eve.
It's not totally unreasonable to think that, but I don't think that it scientifically follows. It's not like not everybody who looks at this is going to come away with the same natural conclusion. Natural in the sense of just like what appears to us to be true on the face of it.
Okay. We've got 2 minutes left and a bunch more questions.
Yeah.
And I hope that you get saved before you run out of time. Because
I've already been saved, Ken, supposedly. That's not the issue. Unless you think that I can be unsaved.